What began as a love over fear Oakland campaign has now evolved into a powerful conversation about sanctuary. Now, in the midst of a new administration that has promised extreme measures to persecute immigrants, our community needs sanctuary. Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity is a multiracial, multi-faith organization working for the full dignity and inclusion of immigrants and folks impacted by incarceration. We recognize that unity is not only about support, but providing safety.
The sanctuary movement at its core is about protecting life, especially when lives might be under attack, when lives might be unfairly targeted by violence or by the government. The bottom line is the dignity and protection of all people. They're looking at taking the current detention system, which can take about 40 to 50,000 people a night, into doubling that. That's what the Trump administration is trying to do and instilling massive fear.
The goal of the sanctuary movement is pretty much simple. We want our community to thrive. We want to see our community not struggle, have jobs that are living wage. And we do not want to see prisons or detention center which tend to continue to perpetuate that harm, right? We want to be able to divest and reinvest into something that would benefit our community, something that would get to the root causes of things, like especially like providing mental health resources, providing education.
If you have connection with people that you trust, then you're grounded in a sense of safety. And that's the first place to start with, to feel cared for and cared about. The bigger your community you're connected to, the more grounded and safe you may feel. It's one thing to know 2 people have your back, and it's another thing to know 500 people in the 6 blocks around my house have my back.
Wherever someone is coming to make a connection with spirit, with themselves, with their culture, with their practice, their ancestry, that is where sanctuary is, where, folks can seek refuge.
For me to experience the private ICE detention, you're getting the poorest quality of medical treatment, poorest quality of food, and the poorest quality of clothing. The purpose of these corporations is to make money, to make profit at the cost of human suffering. At the same time, who's paying for these corporations? The U.S. taxpayer. Our communities are under-resourced, but yet they want to basically give money to these corporations that are only getting richer and richer. That just shows that, this is all business. And unfortunately, because you're an immigrant or you're a non-U.S. citizen, you're basically the cattle. Whether you've made a mistake in your life or whether you're just basically seeking a better life, people have families here in the U.S. People are established. Even for mothers, for fathers, they have their little ones here, or people who are already contributing to their community, and yet you're targeting them.
Then I think at a structural level, you have to really trouble citizen, non-citizen, and not allow that to be what divides us. These are stolen lands. And I think the other thing that reminds me of is the powers that be, which is, white supremacy, are the original, they're immigrants, and they have no right to tell who can and cannot be here. The only people who can really say anything are indigenous folks, and they've already been telling us, land back.
Our system itself, I don't want to say it's broken, I want to say that it's designed to harm people that are less fortunate.
They are trying to scare people into thinking they can do whatever they want. So we really want to communicate to people that you actually have power. Let's put up a struggle and make it as difficult as possible for the next 4 years. We're not going to turn over and make it easy for them. And the number one thing right now is prevention. We need to be able to stop people from getting into the clutches of ICE in the first place. And that is knowing your rights. You still have constitutional rights to remain silent, to not consent to a search without a warrant signed by a judge. We need to be using our voice as much as possible and enlisting our elected officials to be using their voice and power. I think what's additional for faith communities, it means we're actively going to protect. We're not going to do the work of immigration enforcement. We're not going to ask people's status. That's not an issue for us. It's really about inclusion of everyone, and people, what piece of paper they carry is not of any importance to us.
So we actually have some artwork coming from artists who are currently in detention, in ICE detention. That for me is so potent and so important to highlight work from folks who are currently inside and show what sanctuary looks like for them, what they're desiring, and what will they soon have as a manifestation, and uplifting their stories and their voices as well.
Part of what we have to do in the name of love is give people opportunities to nurture their creativity and tell people there's nothing wrong with to dream. There's nothing wrong with imagining. That's where things come up. And that's the legacy of being in Oakland. We'll figure it out. We're not looking for somebody to give us the answer. We create the answer ourselves. This community is not something that's going to happen just naturally. There has to be a certain amount of intentionality, because it was intentionality that divided community.
Through the mission of just love over fear to you're now focusing on sanctuary, is that the love is still the constant. And how we love and how we create love through all of these spaces feels so incredibly important.
Love would look like a disruption in homelessness that we're seeing. Love would look like an end to the genocide in Gaza and the Congo. Love would look like justice. Love would be healing.
For us to reimagine a world without war, where our community would thrive, a world where there's no more detention or incarceration, a world where our community is not lacking, especially a world without borders, where we would celebrate one another, celebrate each other's culture, each other's identity, a world where we would pray and worship together. What was interesting about vision is that the current state that we're living in, all this chaos, we're actually living in somebody's vision. Somebody envisioned this. We have to reimagine a world that would benefit all of us, that would help each and every one of us, our community, to thrive.
I have a vision where our communities could look out for each other. We can basically help those that are dealing with mental health issues. We could have interventions for our youth, our children, where they don't have to basically be funneled to a carceral system, right? Where we can heal our communities and make sure that we don't have to resort to these systems that are only causing harm. Nobody goes hungry, nobody's left without a shelter, nobody's unhoused, where everybody could live in such a comfortable place just like everybody else.